Hello, welcome back. Today I was trying to think what I would call what I'm talking about today, but I'm going to call it something under the general term of energy healing. And I wanted to talk to you about, if we call it that, my experience of that, and how I believe and I feel like it is an ability that is inherent in humans, but we've moved away from, and that I think everyone has their version of energy healing, and skills and tools that naturally are aligned with them. That I think it's always been there, but maybe there's the way that society functions. We've been separated from these kinds of skills. So I'll unwind a little bit and rewind a little bit and go back a bit. So I'm talking about the skills that we might use in energy healing. You might call them extrasensory skills. You might call them a hypersensitivity. You might call them the non-physical senses. I have come across terms that can describe these abilities, and I've made notes over the years as I've come across words that give a logical verbal wordage to what's happening, what the experience is, and just to give us like a place to start off with, I thought I'll just let you know my notes on what those are. So I think there's a few that people might have heard of, like the term clairvoyance. You might think of them as like actually as psychic skills. I didn't use the word psychic before. But yeah, I think of them as like the non-physical senses. So like there's touch when I touch myself now, but there's a word for feeling the touch of a spirit, and a word for touching someone and then getting a feeling as well. It's a non-physical kind of a touch. Yeah, I'll go through my notes. I'll just read them in the order that I've collated them over the years, and I was just looking back over it. The last time I added something to it was actually in January this year, so it's just always building, and there's probably more information out there if any of these resonate with you and you want to go deeper into one of them. And I'll put these into, I don't know if I can fit it all in the description, might be able to fit it in the comments and put it there for you to browse through and see if any of these resonate with how you feel, and you might just have like a little bit of something and a lot of something else. I do think there's like, based on my experience with my friends and people I know, there do seem to be a few of these skills. I just call them skills. They just seem to be talents. Maybe there seem to be a few of these talents that are inherent in some and maybe not in others, and they have different strengths of capability. So you may have like a more prominent one that's supported by another, and then there might be some that you hear what I say and you're like, nope. I never experienced that. Or you might feel like, oh, actually I had an experience where my friend was like that, or my mum, or somebody that you've had a close interaction with, and you can feel that they are one of these. So I'll just go through them. I have a handy list on my phone where I store a lot of the things that I discover or realise. So Claircognisance, I'll start with. There's quite a few, I'll number them off. Claircognisance. This is where a knowing just comes to you, and it's not developed by your brain, or it's not come from an external piece of information. It's like it's a download that's just suddenly there. You didn't know it before, it's there, and it's relevant to, it might not be relevant to the exact situation you're in now, but it will be relevant to something in your life or perhaps someone close to you, and it might become apparent in a couple of days what it was relevant to. But it's something that you just know suddenly. And I've written, which is really important, it can include a flash of inspiration when you're creating something. So if you are a creative person, doesn't have to be for work, it could be hobbies, it could be just anything. It could be like when you're cooking, it could be something that you might not think is necessarily great, like when you're getting dressed, when you're if you have to write a load of notes down, but you do it in really nice writing, and it's just kind of like a really lovely flow feeling. That's like and then an inspiration comes to you when you're in that process. It can feel like that. So if you frequently create things or write, you'll potentially have that skill, claircognizance, of just the information coming to you, whether it's words or just like a knowing. So number 2, clairsentience is a clear physical feeling in your body of others' physical or emotional feelings. So I get this one a lot. So if you are close to someone, like physically close to someone, or knowing them close to someone, so that if they're in your midst in some close proximity, if they're physically unwell, you might be able to feel something like their physical pain. If they're grieving and they're sad, you might feel, oh, I'm sad. Who's sad? Who around me is sad? Or if they have a toe injury, like, oh, why is my toe throbbing? Did someone hurt their toe? Something kind of like so I put injuries, disease, or wellness even. So even if they're just feeling really well, you might feel really well because you're feeling the state that they're in. If they're in love, you might feel a bit of that. On the other end of the scale, if they're heartbroken, you might feel their pleasure, you might feel anger, their joy, anything like that. But injuries and disease is an interesting one, and you can get sympathy pains with, like, you hear of partners of women in labour who have sympathy contractions, and things like that, when you're really in tune with your partner and you know what they're feeling, and you know what they're feeling, but you feel an aspect of it and you can understand to some extent. I'm sure it's not the same full experience, but yeah, sympathy pains would come into that one. So the third one, is Clairempathy, and it's a bit similar to the other one, but it's specifically on an emotional level. It's not physical well-being. It's completely on an emotional space. So you wouldn't feel necessarily a physical discomfort. You'd feel, the warmth of the emotion or the whatever it is, and it can be. This probably applies to all of them, but it can be a spirit in with a body, like incarnate, but it could be a discarnate spirit as well. So you might feel a sense in a room, you might walk into a room with no people in and feel a sense of sadness because potentially the person who lived there before had a really sad ending in that home and they left, and the energy is lingering and it's there's nothing physical there to emanate that feeling. It's just the essence, the energy of the person before, and it doesn't matter if that person just moved house or if they've passed over to another place or whatever, the energy can still linger. So you can sense what that energy is feeling, the emotions. You might feel people's emotional reactions to you when you're saying something, and they might not say, well, that makes me feel like this, but you can, with a clairempathy, you can feel that you can feel it kind of within your body that they feel a certain way, like if you've upset them and things like that. And yeah, and I've made a note, which was a note for me, but it's good if you have this, is that it can sometimes become confusing on how you are definitely feeling and which is the person's, and it most of the time it wouldn't be too bad, but say if that person feels really strongly a certain way that is so different to how you feel, but it's so strong that you're feeling their thing, it's when that could actually skew, how you're behaving in life and your decisions, and you need to check in with what's yours. So what I do in that, if I'm feeling like I'm a bit overwhelmed and feeling a little confused on how I genuinely feel, like maybe a person's like really, really, really excited to see me, and I feel that they're excited, but maybe I'm like, actually, I really need to go and do something else, and I'm not as excited because I need to, I've got a project or what, anything, any situation. And then I'll take a deep breath and kind of let my own energy gravitate down. If you know the kind of concept of the root chakra, or just kind of into your feet, but anything grounding feeling, breathe down into your feet, and make sure that it's like a feeling of like your body is filled up with yourself and not with someone else's energy. So it's like it's kind of like, I guess it's your soul, but it's your energy. So I know when I can feel like I'm full in my body, like full up to the ends of my arms, and I'm the one feeling all these things, and I'm the one making the decisions. And then there are other times when I step in and want to ground down, and I feel like actually I'm like down there in a corner somewhere, and I've taken on a lot of other people's things today, or maybe over the week, depends how long it's been since I've like checked in with myself and grounded, and just checking in and feeling like if your root chakra is down at the base of your spine, but your 3 lower chakras are from here down, so around your belly button and down. So you're looking at the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. That area is your grounding area. So like when you say check your gut, what's your gut feeling? That's when you're looking into those lower chakras and how they feel. So yeah, it is good to check in and do that if you are a Clairempath, or even if you just have high empathy without Clairempathy, it's a good one to check in on. And if you have a tendency towards sympathy, so this is probably what I think is one of the most famous ones. So we're on number 4, and this is Clairvoyance. So this is where the knowing, the knowledge comes to you in clear pictures. This is one of my most prominent skills, and I love it. It's great as a creative person to be able to have this skill. And if you are a visual creative, anything to do with like painting, crafting something visual, or anything that you can see. I used to be a graphic designer, so I think of it as like visual arts, but anything that you can see, you possibly are able to channel through visuals, images, and produce them into like a manifestation in the physical. So come to you in clear pictures. You may have very vivid dreams, so you might have dreams at night that are your main form of clairvoyance, but you might have experiences all through the day in your waking life, especially when you want to create and you channel those images in. Within clairvoyance, it says, I've put here that you may have astral projection. I don't know if I would now think of astral projection as within clairvoyance. I think of it as something different now, but it's under these notes, which I've probably gotten from another person on YouTube over the last 6 or so years, since I started coming across these things. So you may have an astral projection skill. I know that I rarely do that. It's more if I have an out-of-body experience by accident, that happens. I don't really travel, but I know people who can do that, and they can go and see whatever and then come back to their body. If you're interested in that, a really good YouTuber is Ryan Cropper. I think his YouTube is just called Ryan Cropper, but yeah, I've been following him for years, and he is, I think, is one of the experts on astral projection and understanding it. And if you actually do practice it, he can show you how to do that safely. So within clairvoyance, seeing ghosts, or what I like to call discarnate spirits. Ghost just sounds a bit like a horror story kind of thing, unless in reality. But yeah, spirit that doesn't have a physical form at that time, isn't manifested in the physical, but has a visual appearance. I've had lots of interactions with spirit, and indeed a lot of my energy healing practice has been with spirits I've met in different places, often in workplaces it seems to be for me, and help them move on, and then I don't see them again. So that is one of my energy healing skills personally. And also under clairvoyance, there's seeing auras, which I don't see them all the time, but I can see auras. And I've put here another word for it is the energetic fields around beings, and around physical beings, and probably around non-physical beings as well. You may have premonitions. I have that. It's always about 7 years ahead, which is a really, really, really big heads up. And often when something comes around, I remember that I saw the whole thing happening, but because it was 7 years before, I wasn't sure if it was going to happen, as timelines move all the time as you're doing things. But it's because I'm now a little bit older. I'm 35, so I've had 5 blocks of 7 years in my life, and now I'm older, I've got a better sense of what premonitions will be a thing, whereas when I was younger it always seemed to be a surprise, which things happened and which didn't. But your intuition helps you better with these things, and as you make decisions in life, so if you have a premonition of something that's like a warning, that's something negative, you might make choices that then lead you away from that, and it doesn't mean it will. If you have a premonition, it doesn't mean it will happen. Maybe it's happening in some other timeline of the universe. That's a bit too big for me to understand at this point, but as a concept of that, right? Yep, and it says you may see images from other lives or timelines, which I've mentioned in earlier videos. I have what we call past life memories, but I think some of the other incarnations I remember, they're just like such a different timeline. I don't feel like I can call it the past necessarily. It's just like a whole another world. So images from other lives, like visual memories from other lives or timelines. And yeah, I've got some memories of around this Earth timeline, but something like quite different. I'm the same person, but it's different. But I have memories of being a completely different person, but it's my soul, very much my soul, very, 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 very clear it's my soul in a different incarnation in some completely different place. So clairvoyance uses your third eye, which we call it the third eye in, excuse me, itchy nose, there's cats everywhere. We call it the third eye in a kind of spiritual sense. In a physical, anatomical sense, that would be the pineal gland, which sits at the front of the brain, and it's something that is known in medicine, and the quality of the well-being of your pineal gland can affect various different brain disorders. I am not a neuroscientist, so if you have a query about that, please don't ask me. Go find someone definitely good for that. I would just Google neuroscientist pineal gland and just see what research is out there. But it can affect different brain disorders, and you'll find if you feel like your third eye is blocked, you'll find that there are exercises from both spiritual teachers, if you call them that, and medical neuroscientists and practitioners who they can give you tips on how to get all the crusty stuff out of your pineal gland. So basically minerals and stuff accidentally gather there just from what we're consuming. Like there's all sorts of things in our tap water. It depends where you are in the world, potentially on that and what you're consuming. But the things build up. Just it's like how we know that minerals gather in the mind that affect different types of dementia and things like that. It can. So if you want to do a clearing to help with your clairvoyance, those things exist. I'm not going to talk about that now, but I would dig it out. Another really well-known one, this is number 5, I think, is it's Clairaudience. So audio, as you would imagine, is to do with sound. So clairaudience, you might hear, not in your own voice, but or maybe sometimes do I? In my mind's voice, or sometimes it's another voice. But I hear my guides, and it's just like the words are just there. So I'm not sure if I necessarily hear. I think I hear it in my mind's voice, which is kind of my voice. Yeah. It might be a bit different for everyone. You might have guides with a strong accent. I don't know. But yeah, it's hearing words, phrases, sounds, or knowledge. Sounds is actually another one I don't get as frequently. I tend to get words or phrases, like specific words or phrases, and it tends to be when I'm either falling asleep or waking up and my brain's in theta state, which is much easier. It's a more transmissive state for anyone who wants to transmit to get in. So you're not like actively doing this and this and this and this, and you're not completely asleep. It's that window of time when it's great to get a message in, and you can achieve that through meditation and different forms of relaxation as well. So I hear it then, and it tends to be that my guides are saying the same one or two words or phrase again and again and again and again and again and again. So as I wake up, I'm like, oh, and then they realise that I've heard, and then they stop saying it. So that's how I receive clairaudience mostly, and I've tried a little bit to practice kind of tapping into that, but I think that's maybe not the side of it for me, is actively tapping into it. I think as I can with clairvoyance, but I think for me, for clairaudience, it's like my guide's connection with me is my clairaudience, and I don't think I have that so much on another way. You might hear a sound a bit like a high-pitched, gentle ringing in your ears. It might be in one ear or another or both, and it sounds a bit like if you ever, I know some of you might be quite young, but if you ever had a landline phone, you picked it up, and the dial tone before you press the buttons, you know, the beep thing, it might sound a bit like that. Like, you might think that it's tinnitus at first, and then it might like go for a certain amount of time and then stop, and you go, oh, how come it's just stopped out of the blue? It's because your guides were saying ping, like look out for that, or you might have been receiving a download of information that you're not consciously aware of, but the sound is that energy coming through in, which I think it might use your third eye a little bit. I guess it's coming in through your crown chakra. And what else have I put? Yeah, it can be spirit trying to tell you something about the situation, or you're getting a download of information. You might even hear someone else's thoughts, which you might call telepathy. I don't think I have this one, but it can. I think it's an ability that humans have. You might hear I just call them my guides, but within your guides you might hear your higher self, your ancestors, the source or God. It depends on your word of what you call the source of all energy. Or you might just have spirit guides that are not ancestors or anything like that. They might be animals, or sometimes there can be a child that was going to be born into the family and didn't come, but they're still connected to you, and you don't know who they are. You don't recognise them visually if you have clairvoyance or by sound, but they are connected to you in a kind of family way. The next one is really interesting. So I get this one sometimes as well. This is number 6. We do 6. Clairsalience, which is salience is when you can smell. I'm sorry for the pinging. I didn't mean that to go off. Is where you can smell the essence of something, smell the energy of something. So you might smell a particular spirit. So I know that I get a guide who visits me who smells of cigar smoke. So if I'm not seeing him, I still know he's around because of the kind of cigar smell. Or it might be pipe, I'm not sure, but I haven't actually seen him smoking. So I think it might be a pipe. I'm a bit too young to know exactly the smells. It was more of a different era, wasn't it? But you might smell, so if you have a loved one who visits you and you know, say, a perfume that they wore, or they had a particular smell when they were around and you smell that, it's just them putting something out there so you know that their energy is around and they're supporting you, looking after you. So yeah, it can be the scent of a loved one indicating their presence, a loved one from the past. You can, this is very important, you might smell the energy of an event or a substance or a being. So it depends on what experience happened. So like, I use an example of walking into a room before and feeling the energy that was left there. But you might also smell something. So if something like quite sad or even violent happened, you might smell just like a dark, thick, heavy smell, and you might see a colour with it. You might see a dark colour in relation to that. You might be able to smell blood. You might be able to see red, depending on what's happened. But equally, if you walk into a room and it's it's full of energy from something really quite different, maybe there were some people who had a really loving experience there, you might see like a white bright light, or it might be slightly pink toned. I know this is going back into clairvoyance, but you might smell like a really soft, light smell of flowers, something very natural and pretty, like a little bit sweet and a very light energy. Like you can use your own discernment of what light, nice energy smells like and what dark, heavy energy smells like. And it will depend on the exact situation. But yeah, that's an interesting one. And if you have any of these skills where you can walk into a room and feel what's happened, you'll know that if you go into an antiques shop or a vintage place, it can be really quite overwhelming with all the energies in there. If you smell things that have happened, if you feel the emotions, if you can see things that have happened, it can be really overwhelming. And for me, it gives me a bit of a headache and I have to leave. And it's interesting for a little bit. I kind of like it. I like exploring it a bit, but it's good to leave and then ground down and cleanse in whatever way suits you. So the next one, this is number 7, is Clairgustance. So that's the knowledge of a taste of something that's happened in a space to a being. And I've put pain in a space can taste like blood or a dark bitter taste. That rings true with me. And I think if you do have Clairsalience, the smelling one, then you may have Clairgustance as well, because they're quite tied in both the physical and the non-physical sense. So pain can taste quite dark and bitter, and it depends what else has happened in the space. And pleasure in a space can taste like a mild sweetness or a delicate floral taste. So if you imagine a really, really high quality chocolate with lovely lavender and rose oils and things in it, maybe something like that. Not too rich, like very delicate, and very carefully made, and that kind of taste, maybe. I am basing these on my own experience as well as bits I've picked from other places, so your experience might be really quite different. So we've done number 8, we've done number 7, we're on number 8. This is Clairtangency. So this is when you receive knowledge from touch. So you can touch a person or an object and take a reading from it, or you might suddenly know a lot about what happened to the object or the owner of the object or to the person that you're touching. And it can come with clairvoyance, which allows you to see. So that is something that I use a lot in my energy healing, which is what I'm going to go into specifically. Is specifically if I touch. So if I feel there's a pain in the person here, I can feel that in their energy, and then I touch them and use Clairtangency, and then I can see, using my third eye, not my eyes, I can see what caused the pain to that person, and it can be anything from past lives, from birth in this life up to present day, and it can be things that they don't know about. So especially if it's past lives, they tend not to remember, or if it's something that happened when they were a couple of days old, obviously very hard to remember what happened when you were a baby. And for me, those are the ones that often need healing, that the person doesn't know, like, why am I carrying this pain all the time? And this has happened to me. I've carried pains for a long time in my life before I started feeling and knowing where they came from, and I have pains from birth in this life and past lives that I've helped move through. So that can be a version of it, but it doesn't have to be a person and feel the pain. You can touch a person and feel they're in love, or you could, whatever their circumstances. But similarly, you can touch an object that has been around in their lives for a while and has witnessed all different experiences. I know when I go into vintage shops, I can really like something and pick something up and go, oh gosh, the person who owned that was really, really, really sick. They were really unwell, and now I feel really sick. Because the tangency allows the other clairs to come through. And this is another one to do with touch. So this is number 9. This is called Clairtaction, but it's not to do with you touching an object. It's to do with spirit touching you. So you might feel your guides sometimes touch you. It might just mean that they're saying, "Hi, I'm here. I'm looking after you." You might feel like a calming, reassuring touch on the shoulder somewhere. You might feel like a warmth around you, or a bit of a touch of an embrace, the stroking of the hairs, and it depends on who it is that's around you and how they may have comforted you or supported you when they were here physically. And it's likely to be something similar, and it might be something that the two of you would know was specific to your relationship, and it can be that's the reason they're doing it as well, so that it's grandma, I'm touching your hair like that, like I used to when you were a child. So yeah, the touch of spirit or a discarnate soul that you feel on your own physical body. And yeah, you may feel embraced or held by your spirit guides or ancestors when you're speaking with them. So you might have it in conjunction with clairaudience or clairvoyance, and you're having that interaction, and you can feel their touch as well. We're on number 10. Claireloquence. Oh, this is wonderful. And if you're a writer, you may, or a speaker, you may have this ability, and it's where the exact word or phrase that is relevant to what you're communicating just comes through, and it might be a word or phrase that you don't know, like you've never come across that word, and it comes out of you and you're thinking, I don't feel entirely confident that I know what that means or that I said the right thing because I'm not sure I know that word. And then if you look it up later, you'll find, oh, the meaning of that was perfect. That was exactly what I needed to communicate. And that's like an evidence of like it kind of, you were a conduit, a channel that came through, so that it was something that your audience, let's call them, whoever you're speaking to or talking with, or writing for, needed, and the word comes through, and it just helps you communicate what spirit needs to be out in the earth potentially, rather than it necessarily being your agenda. And I haven't written this in my notes, but I think it can happen where sometimes you know a word from another language suddenly, and you're like, where did I learn that? I can't speak that language. You think, I must have picked it up from some other holiday or on TV, or you try and explain it away. But if you really don't know where it came from, it could be Claireloquence coming through, where the exact phrasing is given to you. And last but not least is 11. So I'm going to have to do that. Which is Clairessence, and is one of the most beautiful of all the skills, where it's where you just know about the essence of all of existence, of nature, the origin of source of all consciousness, and you feel the timeless vibrational energy. Oh, I wrote that really well. I'm not sure how else to put it. Those are great words for it. And that's one that I have, and I try not to tap into it too much, because when I feel into the essence of the whole of Earth and the universe, I can feel the destruction that's happening to it currently. So I actually try not to tap into it that much, but on like little bits of levels, it can be really useful in helping me decide my daily decisions on how to go about my life in tune with nature, and thinking about what I consume. Am I in tune with nature? Not just food, but anything you consume, even on YouTube, even me. Think about what's in tune with the whole of the essence of life, and that helps me with what I'm doing with my daily life, and it can help with energy healing in a more loose way rather than a direct thing. But it can help you understand how a person is out of balance with nature. So if you feel this is the balance and this is what is, if everything was in balance, if everything was completely perfect, it would be this. And this person that I'm with now is out of balance in this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. You can feel their contrast to the balance of nature and feel which bits of them and all these sorts of things. Anyway, so that took half an hour. Apologise for that, but I think it's worth having that down there as the groundwork for what I'm going to go into. So for me, it's actually been over the last few years. It's not been as much in my earlier life. Like, I would have an intuition. I'm going into the actual energy healing process for me now. I would have an intuition on why something hurt for me or for someone else, but be like, I don't have anything to corroborate that. Like, I'm not a doctor. I would talk myself completely out of it and not go anywhere with it. And in the last few years, I've had so many physical pains come up, and it was like the universe was, and my body was saying, look at these. It is time to look at this. This is hurting you. This and this and this and this and all these things are hurting you, and we're showing you with the pains in your body how much they're hurting you and that they need sorting out. And I know that particularly for me as a Scorpio sun, as a fixed water sign, and if you have a lot of Scorpio in your chart or any other fixed signs, you may be predisposed to this, is that the fixedness means things stick. Energies can stick to you, and water it rules the emotions. So for me, emotions stick and they get stored in my body. Everyone's experiences can get stored in their body if they're not consciously releasing, cleansing in different ways as they go along. It can store up, clog up, and then it might manifest at first as a little bit of a stiffness and then become something more chronic, and may even end up stopping you doing some of your favourite activities, or even stopping you going to work. It depends on how far your dis-ease goes into a disease, and then you may be diagnosed with something, and then you get stuck in the label becomes your identity, and you live within that frame of being, with the pain, the stiffness, whatever is going on with you, and you can get to a point where you think, this, I can't heal this, they can't heal this, I just have a diagnosis and this is just my life now. And I've been there, so I am definitely not here to judge. I've gone deep down all sorts of places. I've been into the GP going, how am I so sick? And all of my tests come back as, they say, like, you are the healthiest person who's been here. You have no reason to have any of these symptoms. Oh, my cat's coming out the wardrobe. She's going to come say hi. I say, you have no reason to be here. And I'm like, right, okay, so where's it coming from? Can I sort it out? And then the desire to heal kind of supports you, as the pains get stronger, as your body's going, hey, I'm shouting for help. The desire to heal helps you just look at it, and then if you intuitively follow things, like if you get I'm just gonna get her food. If you get a desire to try something, like for me it was just intuitive massage in the first point, that I was like, it can't hurt, right? Just to I've had a lot of pains in different parts of my body, that I had a really big build up in my shoulder, front and back, and then it was like leading down all the connected places. And I started off just the touch on my shoulder in the pain, and it can't hurt just to touch myself, right? Just put my own hand on my own shoulder. Why not just try it? And it might, if you've ever had a feeling like that, you might think, well, it doesn't seem like we know necessarily, like it's not like taking paracetamol like they say should help. That's just to relieve a symptom, not to fix the problem. Not that paracetamol works on me, it's never worked. No kind of medicine like that works for me. My body rejects it and makes me very sick, and then it doesn't actually inhibit any pain. But as far as I know, for other people it does something. So yeah, it's just something I don't know about. I don't know about pain relief. I've never had it. So anyway, it can't hurt to just put your hand on your shoulder or wherever you're hurting and just ease it off and just see how it feels, like that. Just really gentle massage. You don't need to no proper sports massage, like shoving into the pain, unless you really feel called to do so. But pushing in with a light pressure into the pain was how I started, and then using that Clairtangency to see, I was able to, especially when I pause if I'm not doing anything else. Sometimes you might do this while you're watching something, like you might be watching this and doing it, but if you pause everything else you're doing and you're just doing this and your eyes are closed and you're just breathing into it and you just feel for it, you might see it might be different for you. You might have all different of those clairs that I read out. You might have all different things going on, but for me I could see and sometimes hear a kind of like I have a full, like a video experience kind of thing, in an internal visual, an internal video of what's going on, of earlier in my life or a past life, something like that. And then what I will do is I will listen to the body or feel the body. So if the body's crying, then I'll cry and let it out. And for me, this actually is the same if I'm working on another person. If I touch them and the body's crying, they can't understand. They're not conscious of what you're feeling. They feel fine, but you're on their body and their body's crying. For me, I'll cry and I'll release out what's happening with them. And I mean, I can explain the whole situation to them, and often I'll explain it, but they won't remember that. And it doesn't trigger that emotion in them, that they can't release it from their body. But I can. I'm feeling that in their body. So whatever it is, I can let it out as a conduit for that energy to come out. And then it depends what the body needs. It might just need like a hug, and you just kind of, you know, put the love in, like you would when you're hugging your friends. Or basically I just listen to the body of how it feels and what it needs, and it tells me, and it will use the clairs that are relevant to me to tell me what's going on, whether it's my body or one of my loved ones or my partner's body. I don't currently do this as work. It's something that is still new to me and I'm learning, and like I was saying at the beginning of the video, I don't know necessarily if there's a name for it, and I've come across all different types of energy healing practices you can learn that cost a lot of money. But I have this innate ability, right? So I do it for my loved ones, and it's just a nice favour. And I've discovered with my partner that he has very similar abilities. He uses actually quite different clairs to me. He has no clairvoyance. He doesn't see anything. He doesn't see what he's doing when he's working with my energy. Hang on, I'm just gonna let the cat out. Hi. Okay. But he will be able to know what to do through a just knowing, and I can say to him visually what's going on. Like there was one he helped me with when I woke in the night and I couldn't breathe, and it was just like the universe saying, this trauma is coming up now. You are going to deal with this pain now. It's the time. And it was the middle of the night. It wasn't convenient. But it's kind of when these things happen, right? At the witching hour. And it came up and I couldn't breathe, and I had the pain here, and I'd already worked in this area. It just so happens that I have build-ups in this exact spot from multiple different experiences in different lives. So for this particular one, and I was thinking, oh gosh, isn't this bit done yet? This bit of my body, is it not done? Oh, she wants to come back in. Of course she wants to come back in. Hang on. Come on then. I leave it in the jar. So sorry about that, and I know I'm not editing, and that's really inconvenient for you for just like a chunk of time of just looking at nothing. I'll leave it ajar. Hopefully she can sort herself out. She's back in. Okay. Yeah, but it just shows that you can have, through multiple lives, injuries in the same place. So my partner, without me having to say, this is where it hurts, he was able to feel and put his hand here. And as he was working with me, we were still in mid, and my eyes were completely closed, and I was just trying to breathe into the visual. She wants to go in the wardrobe now. Oh, maybe you'll permit me. Let me show you what we do. If you can see her. Okay. All right. You want to go here? You just want attention? Yes. She just wanted attention, so I couldn't show you. She just runs up my back and jumps into the wardrobe, and it's funny. It's funny and cute, but she's not doing it today. She's I think because it's a bit windy and rainy, she doesn't want to play outside, but she wants something to do. So yeah, I'll play with her with a bit of string after this video and give her a bit of something to burn off her energy with. So I do apologise for the cat distractions. That happens just routinely, like hourly, in my house, and this video is 15 minutes at the moment, so it will, yeah, it makes sense that it has happened. So so my partner was working on my shoulder, and I could see him pull out. He was just kind of working in this motion, and he unwound a kind of energy that was stuck in it, and I felt this absolutely red hot poker through my shoulder from this past. That wasn't this life. It definitely wasn't this life. It's a past life. And I felt him pull it out, and then I felt really scared because there was this big gaping hole, and I was like, well, I guess it probably won't bleed out because it's like flaming, right? It's boiling, so it would be kind of sealed in a way with the burn kind of thing. But it still felt really scary, and I didn't have to say anything to him, and he just I could see like a balm, and so after the red hot iron poker thing came out, I could see this blue, like lavender blue kind of balm, like a thick creamy serum, and he was going like this, and he just kind of cooled it all down, and all the pain went away, and he's just doing this with energy. I can see things, but there's only energy that's actually working. And he worked into that spot, and I wasn't looking at his hands, I had my eyes closed, but he worked in a certain way, and then he made like a plug, I guess, and put the plug in the hole, and then coated it and covered it and bandaged it, all in energy. But then the person, I don't remember anything else from that past life. That's the only little snippet that I have. So I don't know if I died after that or what. Like I've had a lot of memories come up where it was a violent death, and then I couldn't process the trauma because I died, and then I just was like not there. I couldn't deal with it, and that's why these deaths are coming up in this life, because I now have the ability to go over the pains, the traumas, and do that healing. But yes, I don't know what happened with the rest of that life. I have no other memory, but the energy that was stuck on a soul level that had come with me into this incarnation, my partner was able to work on. And I've worked on my own bits as well, and he's worked on his own bits, and we've worked on each other. It's all just really natural. It's not like there's a discussion about who's going to help who, or it's like scheduled in. It's never like that. It's just like one of us like something's happening, and then we'll work through it, and we're just with our own natural clairs, and not thinking about it, not like trying to do a certain thing, but just letting that natural way of healing happen. We do this for each other, but since then, like the pain eased off a lot in that area. Like it completely disappeared. I've actually had pains come up again since, and that was because I've had other past lives come up where I've had injuries in that area. Like, go figure, so many. It seems to be the place to get me, right? It's like through here, like right through. Like I can feel, like when I'm talking about these things, I can feel like it's exactly there and exactly there, and it goes right through, and it's happened that many times. And there's possibly still more to do. It was only just over a week ago week and a half ago that I did the last one, which I was, it was a trauma I died from, and I was a soldier in World War One, and I was only a kid. I was only 18-year-old boy, and I was on my own for that one, and I did that on my own, and that was an interesting one actually, because I had to remove shrapnel from my back, and I can't really reach my back, so I stood me up as that man visually in my head and put me behind that man and picked out the pieces, but it's like I could feel it in my physical body currently here. Again, this is one that came up in bed, and I was laid in bed, so I was laid down, but I could feel as if I was stood up, someone, which was me, picking the shrapnel out of my back, and there's a huge piece like that went over the really bad bit, and other pieces. And at the same time, the soldier had died because he had the shrapnel in his back, but I don't think that was why he died. He was laying on something that was burning through that area as well. And yeah, it was a really emotional time as well, because all the kind of clan he was with, that he'd been with for like all this time, they were still trying to do things right, so they were like walking, and they thought that he was dead, so they were like walking the shrapnel into his back. I'm sorry if this is too graphic. If it's a trigger warning, I'll put something on the video that there'll be a trigger warning near the end. Sorry, I didn't need to tell you that. Yeah, so there was the emotions, the physical energy, pain, and all these things to work with, and yeah, you listen to it, and you do what you can. You provide the needs for that person, which is your soul in a past life or earlier in your life, depending on what you're working on. It is you, but you provide for the needs of that snapshot of time. So it's like your body at that time, your soul at that time, your emotional needs at that time. You provide for that, like you would mother your child. You just you use that instinct to know, and you I have a thing from here. I think there's the Clairempathy I'm obviously using Clairvoyance and Clairtangency. I'm using Clairempathy. I'm using quite a few of those clairs combined, like some two. Sorry, my light just timed out. It's back. And maybe it's just because it's hot. Anyway, I'll note that for later. It's a learning experience, this getting used to filming. It does have a timer on it, but I didn't press it anyway. And yeah, there's different clairs that are used to a greater or lesser extent in what we're doing. And yeah, I have so many examples of what I've worked on myself, with my partner, and on each other. And yeah, it's just interesting because I don't have any training. My partner does actually have some Reiki training, and he does do some of that for work, combined with his he's a sound therapist, and that's how I met him. I was one of his clients as a sound therapist, and he, through the sound, he'd already healed me quite a lot. It was something that as I moved to this area from another area, and there was a different sound therapist I was using, it had supported me so much in my healing in that location. And when I moved here, I knew I wanted to find someone similar, and yeah, I think he was the only person in that area, or the only one I found at the time. I think there are a couple more now. It's becoming a little bit more common. So I think there are more options now, but I found him, and yeah, he was my healer, and we got to know each other eventually, like months later from the first sound bath I went to. We got to know each other, and you have a connection with your healers, like I am his healer and he is my healer, and we have that connection. But we discovered, once we had a proper conversation, we were properly in each other's space. I think we kind of had a sense before we met up outside of a sound bath to go for a walk, and it turned out we had mutual sort of connections in other areas of life, and we'd kind of like almost met so many times, all had mutual things going on. And yeah, it just turned out we connected on every level, and we became partners in so many ways, not just healing partners. So it's a really sweet story, actually. And that was only last year, so it's still quite recent for me. And yeah, you find your healers, and some of you watching this now will be feeling really attuned with what I'm saying, and some of you might feel not attuned with it, and that's because we do all have different healers. There's someone for everyone, and I'm not for everyone, I'm sure, and the people who are meant to hear this or I'm meant to be connected with will align with me in whatever way, and I will with them, just like how I found my partner very easily. I found him as a healer first. I found my healer very easily, and it all just flowed super easy. But yeah, so he's a sound healer and he's Reiki trained. He's been Reiki attuned. I haven't been Reiki attuned, and to be honest with you, I'm still not really sure what Reiki is. But I may be using a bit of it, and I know it's to do with the energy in the hands, and maybe there's whole other layers to it. And there's all different types of Reiki as well. So I'm just using like that word, and my understanding is this, but within it there's like this, and it's this huge bracket of healing that I don't know that much about. But it may be that I'm implementing a bit of that in the energy healing, I'm calling it. And I've come across, so it's actually before I properly met my partner. I'd already been going to his sound baths, but a bit after I was going to his sound baths, I found a healer quite local to me as well. I actually do have to go a bit far to go to her in person, but it's worth it. And she's a craniosacral therapist, and she works with energy healing. And I won't be able to describe that very well here, so I will actually find what it says on her website and give you a bit of info about her. And I don't think she's like your generic craniosacral therapist either, because she uses sound and tones, and that really seems to work for me. I was very drawn to her. When I met her, it was at a holistic wellbeing fair, and she was busy talking with lots of other people, and I just felt her energy. Felt her energy. The video is all about energy. Felt her energy, and I was like, I'm gonna talk to her. So I just grabbed her card, and she sort of, even though she was talking to lots of people, she sort of politely said, Are you all right? And do you need anything? It's like, I'll just get your card. I'll just speak to you later. It's fine. And then I made an appointment, went in. Yeah, it was all amazing, because just intuitively, that's my healer. And you'll find the people that are right for you. You'll just get led there. And if you're trying really hard to find a healer and people aren't turning up, and like someone turns up and you're like, I'm just not resonating with this person, maybe it's just not like the exact right timing to find that healer, or maybe you're being called to heal yourself. I think I had a bit of that, because I had a moment when it seemed like there was no one around me. I couldn't seem to discover what I needed to discover until I went in and I found it within myself, and I worked on myself, on my own energy healing. And I've worked on myself all my life in kind of different ways, but I've never, before a couple of years ago, I'd never worked on using these clairs to heal me physically. I've worked on mental blocks and emotional blocks. And in my counselling training, that supported me in learning about that. And that was a different era of my life where I moved through a lot of those blocks, inherited, or from my experience in life, whatever. That was a different thing. And you might have that as well. So if you are struggling to find a really good therapist, it might be because the universe is saying, hey, you can do that. You have those skills and you can heal yourself, and then you'll learn to be a healer, and then you can heal others, and maybe you'll be better at it than all the people around you that are available to you. So have a go. Anyway, this is what this video is kind of about. It's like saying, if I naturally fell into this stuff and I am just a random gal talking to herself on a screen, wearing pink and orange together on a random Thursday in April, when she's wondering if she should be doing something more productive, but she's just chatting away, hoping that this provides something to somebody's life, to my life, to everyone. And I'm just this rando, right? And I have figured out, or naturally fallen into, doing all these things. I'm just a regular human, and I've just let myself tap into things that have been blocked off when I was at school, when I was little, whatever. Like any kind of ideas I got that I spoke about, someone would say, you've got a wild imagination, or all sorts of things like that. They'd shut it down. They'd be like, that's not a thing, basically, would be the narrative. And I'd go, oh, it's not a thing. I don't want people to think I'm mad. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna be a normal human. And I think that's happened to a lot of people. And if you have any kind of inkling of a vague memory like that, of something where, you got an idea, or you're being led into something, like you had a knowledge without a way of knowing, or you were being really creative in some way or something and someone shut it down, go back and revisit that, because if that was innate to you as a child, it can potentially be one of your prominent skills that you could be using now as an adult or an older child. I don't know how old you are. I don't know who's watching. I just have to put out whatever and hope that I'm resonating with the people that are here, and just have a go, because I had a go, and it all seemed like, oh, people might think it's weird, but when I've spoken with people around me and friends around me, they're like, oh. And I think we are more open-minded in this year, 2023, than when we were in the 80s when I was born, or the 90s, or so forth. And we've had different kind of waves in our lives. Like we had a bit of a hippie era where maybe these things were a bit more acceptable generally, and then we kind of lost that again and went into the 80s, and it was all like business, back into capitalism and the whole shebang. And actually, should we be in tune with Earth? Oh no, we're just hippies. Actually, that wasn't the thing. We're just going to be businessy again. And yeah, the cycles of the Earth. And I think we're in another wave. We're coming into another wave of that now. And if you're following astrology, the Pluto in Aquarius I mentioned the other day is supporting that. We are supported in doing that. We can be hippies if you resonate with the word, if you want. We are supported in becoming more in tune with Earth and doing this kind of thing, like energy healing and going back to our own innate natural skills. And it doesn't matter what's on your CV. It doesn't matter if you've never had a job or responsibility, or you think, oh God, I couldn't do that. I'm just this person who doesn't know things, and or whatever. You probably have one of those clairs if you listened painstakingly to that very long explanation I made. If any of those resonated, even at all, just sit and have a go with it. Anything that drew you as a kid, again, just sit and have a go with it, and you might be impressed at what you find. And when you talk about it, if you choose to share this with anyone, if you talk about it, you might be surprised at how accepting people can be. And I've got to the point where I am talking to this on the internet. There's literally the entire world out there. This is public, and I wouldn't have done that a few years ago. I would have been completely private about my healing, and it would have been a disservice to people who may have heard what I'm doing and feel more confident in either doing it themselves, or if they're already doing it, to talk about it and to share it with other people and just let this way of living grow. And of course, it's important for me to say that in energy healing, it doesn't mean you can cure literally everything that ever happens to you or ever goes wrong. Like, if you have a terrible misfortune to have a really bad accident, like, go to the emergency services, like, have a physical practitioner sort it out. But for past life storage and old things that are stuck in the body, like how I explained, especially if you've got Scorpio and you hold things in your body to a greater extent than the average person, it's even more prominent that this is something that will support you going forward. So if I hadn't been working on my shoulder and my back, like, my posture is not like perfect, right? I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's like kind of more upright. Before I started working on it, I had my shoulders were rounded like this, my head was tipped, and my back was totally curved like that. Like, it's quite hard, I don't know how to show you. I was stuck like that, and things would exacerbate it. Like, when it was cold, it would crunch in even more. If I felt any emotional or physical pain anywhere in my body, it would crunch more. I would scrunch, and everything was tight. It was so uncomfortable, so horrible. And just the discomfort of walking around, picking up a bag, really basic things. Oh my God, it was impossible. And I even had a point where I couldn't wait. I'm going to just, I don't want to get stuck there. Put my shoulders back and put my shoulders down. Stretch my neck out a little bit. That feels better. And I was stuck. I could never ever get comfortable. I was stuck like that. And there was a point I was literally physically stuck like that, and I had to just kind of like move a bit like this, a bit like a robot. And I had to take time off work because I couldn't even type. I mean, like, technically I could kind of do it, but just it would go up, and oh my Lord, the agony. Yeah, so you have to if you hold things in your body, you don't want to get that far. You have to stop and look at what you're storing. I had lifetimes of pain held there, and pain from this life. Every heartbreak I'd experienced up until my early 30s. My cats are back. Hi. It was all stored, and it didn't matter how much I had. This is cat 2, this is the other one. Hi. Sit down. Yeah. It didn't matter how much crying I'd done and that kind of emotional processing. The trauma was held, it was stuck, and it needed a good shove. But I hope that what I've just spoken about didn't sound too wild or undoable to you, and I hope that if you feel like you resonate with wanting to do some kind of energy work like this, if you don't know where to start, you could just visit or speak, or consult. You can just email whoever you find, whether it's a Reiki practitioner or a craniosacral therapist or something else that you've heard of that comes up for you, and you search in your area and just speak with somebody. They might be open to a phone call about what is it you do and what's going on, and maybe even just having one session with them. Like, I know when I first went to my craniosacral therapist, the transition of just one session, and it gave me such a good clear out through my chakras that my abilities went boom. My clairvoyance, everything improved, and the pain I was holding in all areas of my body, like without going in and saying that I used to have, I think the actual word for it is dysmenorrhea, which just means extremely painful, heavy periods. And I didn't mention that, but it improved, and now I can feel my period happening, but it's just there. And I used to be crippled and be like with the tension and crying. I just thought that was my life, I identified as someone with painful periods, and now I don't, and the pain that was being stored there, that she's shifted, that's helped me to raise my skills and improve my own. It's like I have some ability of what she's doing in my own way, kind of thing. Just from being exposed to her healing energy, it's like her healing energy fed my healing energy, and then the more connections I've had with her, and the more I've had with my partner, we've amplified. That's a good word. We've amplified each other's healing energy as well. It's like it's just growing. Like what's the phrase? It's a really great phrase, and I got this from Vera from Simple Happy Zen years ago, and she still says it, and I still say it, and I love it. It's energy flows where attention goes, and you can apply it to anything, but for this, I just realised that it actually fits really well, because when you put your attention on something, energy automatically flows there. So when your attention goes on healing someone, your healing energy goes into them, and they get a boost of healing energy. And then when they put their attention on someone else's energy and healing it, they put healing energy into them, and it just goes boom, 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 and it ripples out. Isn't it wonderful? Yeah, I'm going to wrap up. Bless the cats, they're looking bored. They don't have much to do today. They cannot run around outside as much because they don't like rain and wind and cold. So I'll play with them. And thank you if you're still here for being with me all this time. I think it actually got more interesting near the end. Typical. But it's hard to get everything into a really condensed time and get all the interesting stuff from the beginning, especially when I really felt like the groundwork for those Claires was it was something that needed doing. But if you've watched any of this and now you're like, I'm stuck, I'm bamboozled. If there's something in it you want to pick on and learn more from that you think I might know about, do feel free to ask me. I don't want you to feel, especially as at the time that I'm filming this, I don't have a big YouTube channel at all, and most people aren't commenting, but you might be watching this a bit later if there's more views and stuff, and it might feel easier to comment. But if there's no comments, don't feel too shy, just pop a little something if you genuinely want me to talk more about a specific thing within this. Otherwise, I would just, support you in going and researching what is around out there for you that relates to your experience, what's in your area, things like that. And I'll also, when I'm uploading this, I'll just try and think of as many things as possible that I could pop in the description or comments that might support you if you have a little ruffle around in there and see what's going on. I know that my craniosacral therapist, she's local to me in Yorkshire, but she's starting to offer remote services, so you don't necessarily need touch with craniosacral. So it depends if that resonates with you. I think Reiki can be done long distance, so it doesn't always necessarily have to be someone who's local to you. I know that I personally appreciate the physical presence and the physical touch of a healer, but everyone's different and we have different needs. yeah, I'll pop some people into the description thingy bit down there, or if it doesn't fit, in the comments, and do browse. And yeah, and I hope I put out something great for you tomorrow if you're still watching everything. And I still haven't decided what to do for tomorrow. I'm kind of winging it each day by day. I've got different ideas. I'll just go with it, with what feels right at the time. Yeah, so you take care, enjoy the rest of your day. If you've got better weather than us, go and enjoy that and connect with nature. Or if you're fine with the moody weather, still go and enjoy nature, create, or just have some nice, indoor nature contact. If you can, everything like that is healing as well. And there's all different ways to keep in touch with nature. It's not just your plants and your animals and things around you, but just the water coming out the tap is a part of nature. And if you have, essential oils or anything, my cat's making another cameo, and anything natural that supports you in your healing, your relaxation, go with it. You don't have to do everything that necessarily yourself. There are tools, and I absolutely love aromatherapy. I don't know much about it, but I'm actually trying to learn a bit more about it now. So in time, maybe I can talk a bit more about that side of being in tune with nature and its healing. But yes, I'll leave it there. Do have a wonderful rest of the day, and see you whenever you feel like coming back. Yes, take care.